G'day everybody, welcome back to another episode of Photo Australia. In this episode, we are going back to Grant's AV. So we have now, I should say Grant has, put in some audio from his microphone and we've added in some speaking. So over to you, Grant. So what did you use and how did you go about it?
Yeah, thanks Brad and welcome folks. I've persevered with PT to AV Studio Pro. I have purchased a reasonable quality microphone off of eBay. And then I've reworked this a number of times. I've been into it and out of it, into it and out of it. And whereas I say I'm finished at the moment, it's really not. I could go back and tidy it up again. One of the comments made to me by someone doing the course, well, John Hodgson, who's teaching us all a course on this, was that it's easier to write your storyline and then go and photograph to the storyline than it is to take existing photos and try and adapt them to a storyline. You're right, John. You've got that in one. So this is doing it back to front, and it is a lot harder than you think. But it's also a great way of putting together what you've got. And I doubt I'll be getting back to Canada anytime soon to redo this trip. And you couldn't create what happened on this trip anyway. So yes, Brad, I've been in and out. I have added voiceovers. I've played around with music. I say it's finished. You're going to laugh at me and tell me to go back to the drawing board and do my homework again. But let's have a look. Let's see what you think and pull up where you think there's errors, and we'll go from there.
Okay, I've just got one more question before we get into it. So what software did you... So you got your microphone.
Yep. And
you've written out what you've wanted to say and when you want to say it. So what software did you use to actually record your speaking on, so that if somebody at home is wanting to do that, what's the best way? Was it using the PTE software or were you using something different?
No, I was using the PTE AV software, the narration button within the program. I'm just clicking on that and using that. I spent a fair bit of time going back into Windows and reconfiguring my microphone settings. And don't ask me how I did that now, but my initial recordings, the voice was really, really background and faint. And whatever I tried to do, I couldn't get it up to a level I was happy with until I finally got into the bowels of Windows 10 and their audio settings and their microphone settings. And I finally got to a screen whereby I could make a lot of adjustments. And once I played around in there, I was away.
Yep.
I got the results I wanted. Look, I would be able to find my way back in there, but right now I would have to go and practice with that again.
Yep.
So, no. And did I write out a script? No, I'm sorry.
Oh, didn't you? No. So I was giving you some credit there, Grant, of being super organised.
I simply looked at the film clip and I just wanted to give explanations at certain points, and I tried to keep it short and sweet.
Yep. That sounds good. All right, well, we will move into your video with the narration in it, and we'll see the difference between I think it was 2 episodes ago, one or 2 episodes ago. So we'll see the difference between the titles and the narration.
We board the Trans-Canadian train in Edmonton. We're en route to Jasper overnight, and then we're going to Prince Rupert and catching the Queen of the North ferry down to Port Hardy. Been looking forward to this trip for a long time. We wake up to a blizzard in Edmonton. Snow everywhere, roads completely covered. Even our taxi driver having trouble finding the road and the station entrance. But we got there and we're underway. We arrive in Jasper, a very cold Jasper. We overnight here. Tomorrow we catch the Skeena. We rejoined the train in the morning after again overnighting, this time in Prince George. Looking forward to a great day of travel. We did notice a bit of tension between some of the crew members as we boarded, which just made us wonder what was going on. Anyway, we're here, we're going, all is good. Anne has noticed something a little strange, an electronic panel giving an unusual reading from the day before. And about this time, in walks our crew cabin chief to inform us that the train is stopping. We have an engine problem. So we coast to a stop in New Hazelton. We disembark and discover that the train has run out of fuel. It's supposed to be refuelled in Prince George overnight, and this apparently wasn't done, and that was giving cause to the angst amongst the crew that we saw in the morning, where one was questioning that and the other was overriding him and saying, no, all's good, we're fine. Fuel gauges weren't working. The whole thing was a bit of a stuff-up. A highlight of the trip was going to be the return leg to Port Hardy aboard the Queen of the North, down the inside passage. Well, that didn't happen. The Queen of the North sank the night before we were due to board.
Okay. Huge difference there, Grant. I think adding that voice in has picked the level up. Once again, you don't, and you probably could drop out some of the titles. because now your voice is added to it. It actually polishes the video off really well, and it just shows how narration can completely change the feel and just the flow of the video. Now you can actually just look at the scenery. I actually wasn't reading too much. So there was a couple of titles that were quite interesting, like Where You Were or something like that. But the story, now that you're telling it, you get to look at the pictures more and go on that journey. So makes a huge difference, in my opinion.
Yes, it does, Brad. And I look, to anyone considering this software, PTE AV Studio is very good, and it's one of those things, the more you use it, the better you're going to get at getting the best out of it, as with anything. So I would advise anyone that's thinking about it to go in and do that. And as Brad has brought up now the timeline screen, you can see how I have inserted my commentary. I've had my music tracks, and then I've recorded my commentary and dropped the volume down to insert the commentary over it. That was a pretty easy project to do that. Once you worked out the how, that's a big plus in this program to purchase the Pro over the Standard, because the Standard version does not give you that yellow line in the middle of your timeline, and that yellow line enables you to put in edit points, and you can drag it up and down as you see fit, which adjusts the volume. So it's a very easy, simple process to insert audio over it, and the purchase of a decent or half-decent microphone is also an important factor.
Oh, it does make a huge difference. So what we're looking at that Grant's explaining here, this bottom long line down the bottom here of the program, that's his music, and the clip above it has the commentary on top of it. So what he's done is he's actually faded down the music for when he actually does his commentary. So and you can move this left and right. Look at that, Grant, I'm changing yours. So you can change the timing of when that comes in, and it makes a huge difference to, especially for the viewer. See, this is the first time I've seen it since he's put the voice in, and it makes a huge difference of the production, and just easy to watch and follow the story.
Yep.
So my only, if I had a criticism with this, would be that you could probably have less titles now.
Yeah, yeah.
Other than that, it's fairly well polished, Grant. You've done a really good job. Yeah. So well done.
Yeah. The titles were inserted on the first run through. So
yes, yeah.
And I could look. They're fairly easy to take out too.
Yep.
If you want to click on one, Brad, that's one of the ones with title. That one there. Now, if you go to the timeline, objects and animation down the bottom. Now there you go. So we click on the text.
Yeah, and we can just...
And you can get rid of it there.
Yep.
It's as simple as that.
And that'd be, my only thing would be, I think the little bit of text would still be nice to have in there.
Yep.
Especially just having like where this photo is, like a destination, or on the train or anything like that, and your voice picks up a lot of the rest of the story, which is really good.
One of the narration, I don't think is a big strength of PT AV Studio. I'm sorry to the writers of PT AV Studio if you're looking at this. Some of the other software I played around with, I think, is stronger in its way it lets you record. There was one in particular, I think, Photo Stage allowed you to speak to certain images. You could block out a range of images and then just record across those images. So you can sort of do the same here. It's a little different way of getting to the same end point.
Yeah.
So, The other software that, if you go back to our first edition of this series, AV series, you remember I spoke about Photo Story and how I so much wanted to like that program, and it had a map feature in there that allowed you to put pointers on a map, and then you could click on the map and it would bring up images and et cetera, et cetera. That would have been a great feature in this particular one, where I've had to cut and paste from Google Maps onto here. But the Photo Story Maps feature function, if I could have got it to work, would have been really, really good. But look, maybe all the writers of these programs could look at those types of things going forward, because when you're trying to tell a story, if there's a simple way of doing it, it is easy to do it. So, for a learner, Brad, that's why I'm calling it the final attempt. But as I say, you could fine-tune it further and further and further.
Yeah, it's something that you cannot keep on polishing, but you've certainly got down to something that you could easily show friends, family, or whatever you want to do. So you could also, I would think, that you'd be easily able to record on other software and then bring it into
I believe you can do that.
PTE Studio.
Yep.
I would think that would be it's a feature of most editing software. So you could record on something else if you like to have more control over settings or filters or anything like that, especially if you've got a background environment where you've got echoes and stuff like that. You may want to process your audio before you bring it into PTE. And there's countless of software out there to use for that. For this, how I do the studio here, I just use OBS Studio, which is a free software. But that's very more in depth, far as having multiple cameras and multiple microphones and multiple screens and all the craziness that we got here. But that's what we do for our normal recordings. But have a go, have a crack. It's definitely worth doing with your photos, especially if you've been on a trip or something like that, is to put them to an AV, put them to music, put them to some voiceover over the top to help tell that story, and have a go, have a crack. And if you want to send it, just email us a link to your video. I would love to see some of them if you do them.
Absolutely,
It'd be fantastic.
And I just want to put in another plug for PD AV Studio is good. It's a good tool, does everything it claims to do. But in general for AVs, look, folks, give them a lot of thought, because I hope from viewing that one you get a bit of a feel for the trip that we had. And I'm going to now go back through my tens of thousands of travel photos, and I'm going to produce a series of AVs on various trips we've done, because I just think it's a great way to archive them, rather than just have them there on a drive tucked away for safekeeping somewhere that frankly you'll never look at. If they're in short 5-minute or so AVs, I think there's a tendency to take them out occasionally and give them a run. And
my biggest fear, Grant, is being a photographer and actually meeting a lot of other photographers, and I keep hearing, what do you do with your photos after you've put them through a camera club or whatever you've done with them? I'll ask the question, and most of the feedback is, no, they just sit on the computer. My fear is that we've got such great photographers out there that are leaving their photos on their computers, not taking it to the next step and doing something with their photos, that even just as a family point of view, that when we eventually pass on to the kids of the future and that, they're not going to be interested going through hundreds of thousands of photos on your computer.
No.
They're most likely the computer is just going to end up in the trash without them really thinking about what's on there, and they're going to be lost forever. Whereas if you actually make these videos, my grandfather did videos well, not videos, it was film, film video. But he took the time, he processed it, which was a lot harder than what it is to do now.
Yep.
He processed it, he edited it, and he made them into family small films.
Yep.
And I still watch them even to today. He's passed on, and he passed them down to my father, and my father has passed them on as well. And we've got them now. They're short, they're easy to look at, and they've got a storyline.
Yep.
And it's so important that you can pass them down. And now it's actually possible that some of those films might actually be archived because the areas that he filmed and photographed have changed so much now. And it now becomes important to actually be archived of what it used to be like. So it is very important that you do it.
It is, and I just want to reiterate that, going over the same ground. But yes, you're right, Brad. I think if my son, daughter, grandchildren, great grandchildren come in, when I'm long gone, and going through the computer and see this folder with all these photos, it's probably going to get deleted, and it may even, and by that time, be in a format that's no longer used anyway. Because remember how not long ago we were storing these things on DVDs and CDs and whatever, and now it's all on USB and external hard drives. By putting them into an AV and labelling them, and I'll store them, I think, on... And
having the story attached. That's what AVs are so good about.
That's right. So
is that
I'll
Grant
look
could
at it and go, oh, this was Grandpa's trip in, or my great-grandfather's trip in such and such and such and such.
And we know where it is, we know what happened, we know the story. And well, you could hand this to anybody, and they get that story with the photos. It's so important.
Yep. So there it is. I think AVs are a great tool. What software you use, look, ultimately it is your choice. You research them, you look at them. Like we've used PTE AV here, Studio Pro, and it's a very competent piece of software. It does everything it claims to do. I'm not going to say it's the best because I haven't used all of the others, so I can't make that claim. But all I can say is that that's the one we've used to produce this. I think it's done everything I wanted it to do, and I think we can leave it there.
Set yourself a challenge, have a go, and if you want, send us a link. We'd love to see it. We certainly won't make fun of it or anything.
No, not at all.
You should see some of my first attempts, so hopefully they get deleted.
Yeah, I hope. They should be.
But have a go, because the more you do it, the better you get. Yep. So with that, I think we'll end this episode. So if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. It helps the channel out. Ring the bell if you want to be notified of new videos, which have been a bit slow lately, so hopefully I get geared up and start sending out some more. And with that, we'll see you in the next episode.
We will, in just one parting word, folks. You know what putting this together, Brad, has made me...
You're making me worried.
It's made me want to go back and complete this trip. It really has.
That's the thing.
It really has. I look at it and... it's brought all these memories flooding back to me, and it was quite a tragic story of the Queen of the North going down, and they evacuated the ship, and they missed two people because there were two additional people on the ship that weren't technically supposed to be there, so their numbers were out by two all the way through. And when they got to shore, they did their head count. They had the right number on their manifest, but when they did the name count, they had two names that weren't on their manifest. So, it was a very, very tragic story. Huge impact on that region, losing that ship, because she's the artery, the life vein of that coastline. So, would love to go back and do it again. Where to get the travel, Brad? Who knows? We might
eventually.
We
open
might
up.
just look at doing one down the track. Somewhere we could get Dave involved and Jimbo. That'll be a bit of an awesome foursome on the train for a few days.
You're worrying me with some of your friends.
They're not bad. They're Canadians, but they're okay. Okay, folks. Let's
All
leave
right,
it there.
we'll see you in the
See you
next
later.
episode. Bye bye.